scale will have an impact. But I do think we're in a fight. Part of why Clifton and I launched this American Legacy book tour, I mean, we do think the effort of the liberals in education to create amnesia about American history has had an effect. The number of people who have no idea why the Pilgrims came here, have no idea why we rebelled against Great Britain, have no idea why the Constitution matters. It is a serious problem.
There was an article, I mean, that actually went through the comment that most impacted Romney, and it had to do with his statement about the 47%. I mean, now we do have nearly half the country doesn't pay federal income taxes, and if you look at exit polls, the one thing that stood out the most to me, and it was on Real Clear Politics, somebody sent it to me earlier today, was that Mitt Romney only got 18% people believing he cared about them. And I think a lot of this was the negative Bain narrative and everything else, that he's rich and that he has a lot of money, et cetera. I think part of that all worked, but it seems people want somebody to at least project that they care about them. Here, I got it right here. It's Heather Higgins put it out. You know Heather.
No, it's a great article. I recommend it to everybody, and she's right on target about that concept. But let me go a stage deeper. Jack Kemp used to say they have to know that you care before they care that you know. I think that's true, but that's not the last 60 days of a campaign. I mean, there are whole blocks of people today who say, "I agree with you, but you're a Republican," and in their mind that means they can't possibly vote for you. And that's an enormous problem which you don't solve by focusing on the candidate. This is a party, I mean, if you were to ask me about the Senate and the House and the governors, this is a party that has to get a grip on itself over the next 6 or 8 months and has to realize that the group that's doing the best job of reaching out are governors, and that's worth studying. You know, what does a Susana Martinez do in New Mexico? What does a Bobby Jindal do in Louisiana? I'm going to go out and interview Mitch Daniel on Monday and actually develop a course that we're going to put online at Newt University on the great job that Mitch has done with innovation and the way in which he's really been very successful in Indiana and very popular while doing it. But I think we've got to recognize that for all too many Americans today, the drumbeat, some of it, frankly, strengthened by the Republican Party's own attitudes, has made it seem like, being a Republican automatically blocks you from getting people's votes. That's a very dangerous situation to be in for a party.
It is. Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, years ago, you wrote a book. You have this side of you that you for those that don't know you personally like I do, where you go through a period of great success like you did in '94, and then you wrote this book, Lessons Learned the Hard Way. And it seems like you really have spent some time trying to figure out what has happened here. What are your early conclusions?
Well, let me say, first of all, I think this project is going to take 4 to 6 months. We're going to have a monthly report. I'd love to come on the show and share it with you as we develop each thing along the way. I'll give you a minor example, and it's about media, about where people learn things. Chris and I were on The View the other day because we were talking about our 2 books, and they said they couldn't get Mitt to come on The View. Then I did Colbert, where they couldn't get Republicans. They have a very hard time getting Republicans to come on Colbert. And I was at the University of Texas a day or 2 later, and the number of students who walked up and said, "I saw you in Colbert." People, you wonder why younger people don't think Republicans connect. Look where younger people look for their information. So I told the story to our mutual friend Dave Bossie at Citizens United, and he said that his 9-year-old son Griffin said to him, "Gee, how come President Obama was on Nickelodeon and Governor Romney couldn't find the time?" This may sound like a small thing, but if there's a whole world of media that Republican consultants write off because we don't get it, we don't understand that for millions and millions of people, they want you to be in their community on their terms talking with them.
That's right.
And it worked. And yet I think among Republicans there was this sense of, gee, why is Obama going on this show and going on that show and looks silly to us? Well, to the people who watched that show, it didn't look silly.
Well, maybe the people that were listening to Pimp with a Limp, and I know that became a big focal point, but it certainly didn't hurt Obama.
That's the whole thing. I mean, it's truly wild, and we do live in this very different world now. And it's not about value. This is I agree with you. There's some real questions about our culture, and all of us have an obligation to fight to ensure that our children learn American history, and that we learn about the Constitution and we learn the Declaration of Independence. We need to fight to reestablish and reassert the work ethic. The culture does matter, but in addition to the culture, there's a real question about how you reach people and how you reach them on their terms where they're used to being.
No, I think there's a lot that can be learned here, but I think it also goes a little bit deeper. If the country though has moved to the left, if you look at a country that even where 30 some odd states voted against gay marriage, now it seems to be moving in the other direction. Where I think the country once would have recoiled against the use of marijuana for recreational use, and what it would be, I think, a first step towards legalization of drugs, and now is voting in Colorado in that case. It seems that things have changed somewhat. If Sandra Fluck becomes a focal point and the overwhelming majority of Americans think that free contraception is a right, a constitutional right, in that sense, I just don't think that you can change your principles in that way. You can do all the marketing changing you want, and you can reach all the social media outlets you want, but I don't think you can compromise on your principles for these things.
Well,